Okay, good afternoon, everybody. This is Sue Ellam, and I'm the founder of Soulfully Connecting. And today it's my great pleasure to interview Caroline Nettle. Caroline is a BodyTalk expert and does various other healing modalities. And her business is Spiritual Growth Tools. So over to you, Caroline. How are you today?
Hi, Sue. Thank you very much for that. And it's a real pleasure to be here. I'm very well, thank you. I'm in a sunny Somerset, which makes a lovely change.
No, it's not too bad here in London, but it's a bit of blue sky up there. Caroline is a very interesting person. She's one of our valued authors, and she writes on a variety of subjects. So do check her out on Soulfully Connecting, www.soulfully-connecting.com, because she's got lots of wise advice to give. But so today, Caroline, you're on the spot. So who are you? Who is Caroline Nettle?
Well, I was thinking about that this morning. Excuse me. Because I think if you'd have asked me that question 10 years ago, I would have told you what I did, what my name was, how old I was, how much money I had in the bank, all those good things that people expect themselves to be, if you like. And today, none of that is true for me anymore. And without sounding too smug, on the 13th of March 2017, I am going to be 10 years sober. So I'm very excited about that. And I think the beginning of my journey started before 10 years, but I think this lifetime for me has been a very long and hard look into why we're here and what we do. And the answer to who am I is I have absolutely no idea. And that's super exciting because I could tell you about my personality traits and I could tell you about what I like and what I prefer and what I don't like. But really, I think a lot of the question to who I am is answered by we are spiritual beings in a human body doing the best we can to get by. So who am I would be, if I was to ask that question, it would be, I would have to explain to you God, the universe, all those good things. And I think for me, this lifetime, I'm really getting to the stage at the grand old age of 50 of just accepting that there are some questions to which I don't know the answer. I am so much better at appreciating myself, my qualities, my talents, what it is I give to the world, what it is I like to do in the world, those that love me, all those huge, huge things that have been such a blessing since my sobriety. But I think in answer to the question, who am I would say watch this space.
Yeah, because Caroline also you do angel card readings, and I know you talk to the angels. How long has that been going on? Has it been going on since childhood or over the last 10 years?
So when I was 4 years old, we went to church because that was the done thing in our village. And I'm not sure who believed in what, but we went to church anyway. And I stood behind a lady and I said, your husband's going to die. And I honestly don't think a 4-year-old would understand the concept of death. So I'm not 100% sure I knew what I was saying. And my mother was horrified that I would say something so atrocious in a church and whacked me right, And I, from that moment on, didn't allow myself to ask questions and to hear the messages. Now, he did die. And when I was about 30, so did a few silly things in my 20s and had a lot of fun and did a lot of traveling. But in my 30s, a friend of mine said, do you want to go to a psychic class? And I was like, you know what, I think I probably would. And we went. And the messages, it was like the tap was turned on, the messages just started coming straight away. And not long after that, I went to Hawaii to train with Doreen Virtue. I didn't know that's what I wanted to do. I was more excited about going to see the dolphins and the whales and the manta rays and all the volcanoes and the beautiful the big island of Hawaii. But it was a transformational week, and I learnt that actually the angels were the ones that were giving me the messages. So, and it's just been such a blessing to work with them. I love it. It's just so full of love and joy and practical steps to make your life, more effective and more enjoyable and all those things. It's just, it's fantastic.
Yeah, that's it. We've covered a bit of it, but next question really is, what do you do? And we do, do some of it, but what do we do?
Okay, so in 2005, I left my proper job and I went travelling again, as I like to do. And I came back and I had some really poor health. I had some, it was really difficult for me to stay awake all day. And I had constant coughs and colds and really debilitating coughs to the point where sometimes I'd be 3 weeks in bed. And I left work because they said, actually, Caroline, you're taking more time off work than you are here. My father had also just passed away, so I think that had a little bit to do with that. But anyway, and so I just asked to whoever it was I asked to at the time, I said, bring me what I need. And the next day, a BodyTalk practitioner came into work and was offering sessions for £5. So I thought, in those days, I was a complete therapy junkie. Anything at all. I'll try it once, anything to get me better. And I think, if I'm really honest, I was just expecting a miracle cure. And of course they don't exist, but that's what I was expecting. Anyway, I went for this BodyTalk session, and she was telling me things that I hadn't told her about my body and why it wasn't working properly. And then I just followed my gut instinct, which was to go back for a couple more. And by about the fourth one, I was like, I just made it all the way through today without sleeping, which was, a big change. I mean, we found out subsequently my thyroid wasn't working at all, and I had, rheumatoid arthritis and all these immune system issues. But that was the beginning of my real journey to health. And one day she just very casually said to me, why don't you become a BodyTalk practitioner? So I thought, okay. I didn't really know what to do with my life post, massive high-paying corporate job. And I went to a weekend. It's a 4-day course. Anyone can do it. It's amazing. And I just walked into a room and I just felt like I'd met my tribe. It was really interesting. They were just talking about, alternative health and, natural living. And, it was just amazing. And so passed my exams 3 months later and started practicing in 2005. So I've been practicing now for 12 years. And why I like BodyTalk, I have a doctor in Bristol who recommends her clients come and see me because she says, sometimes patients are sitting there and she's thinking, I know drugs aren't going to help you. This is an emotional problem. And one of the great things about BodyTalk, and I would say 95% of what I do is actually healing underlying emotional blockages or traumas that perhaps even the person who's carrying them doesn't know they've got, or they've inherited from their family, or it might have come in from a past life. We just don't know where all of these things that we carry. So you might be telling me that you have, I don't know, constant shoulder ache, and I might take it back to the time you were stabbed in the back as a pirate when in 1562 or something, and suddenly your shoulder gets better. So, and I found out through this, I'm inherently nosy. I love to dig deep into reasons why and try and find the answers and so on. But, the thing is with people is if I had 10 people in front of me with exactly the same issues, I know that I wouldn't find the same story or reasons or ancestral patterning or whatever it is we find, because everybody's lived a different life from a different perspective and everybody has different belief systems and so on. So I found I was quite good at it, which was always very exciting. And then one day I have a very good friend in Holland and she said, I've really, really hurt my leg. Can you help me? And I said, I don't think I can do it over, I'm not sure that I can do a remote session. She said, well, try. So I tried it and she said, I can feel it working in my leg. So from that moment on, most of my clients now, I would say, are actually distant. So I have clients all over America, Europe, South America even. So yeah, it's fantastic. And I love doing it because Body Talk, instead of just looking at what the symptoms are, it's almost like it's a way of helping you to be the best version of you that is possible. So if you have enough sessions, we can take away the masks and the things that we hide behind, or the things that we don't even know that are there, that are blocking us from happiness and love and all the good things that we want. So yeah, I love to do Body Talk. So that's A. I get bored quite easily, so there's B, C, D, and E. But anyway, so I also, as I said, I trained as an angel reader, and I do my cards, my readings online. I go around and do festivals and things. I've done some stand-up evenings, which I just love, where you're standing in front of a room full of people and just bringing in really healing messages. I think the joy that the angels bring. For example, I didn't know love until within the last decade of my life. It wasn't something that was available to me before that, or possibly I didn't allow it to come in. And my childhood was quite dark, and there wasn't a lot of joy and fun and excitement. We did all the right things, but it just wasn't a fun place to be. And so I have gone through a huge transformation with the angels, in that the first time somebody gives you just unconditional love is horrendous if you were me, or lots of us that haven't ever really felt that before. I've never cried so hard and so deep. And it makes me feel a bit emotional now, because it really was, okay, now I've seen it, now I can try and find it again. Now I can recreate that in my life. And, one of the things that my angels have always said to me is that they show me in my life where they've saved my life. And that was, the first time I heard that, I was like, of course, that makes absolute sense. But I would never have, I never would have guessed that, I suppose, without being shown it. So I do a bit of mediumship as well. That just I'm not saying I am a medium, but in the angel readings and the Body Talk, sometimes these, ancestors or whoever want to come in. So I put that hat on sometimes. And then the other thing I do is help people make money online, which is literally just to, a lot of people are looking for a different way of making an income. And I've specialised in that recently, because for the very simple reason that I might be good at what I do, but I lack the ability to promote myself effectively. And I think I'm not alone when I say that. I know lots of fantastic clairvoyants and healers and massage therapists who find it really, really challenging. So I went online maybe 2 or 3 years ago just to try and bring in a bit of extra income to advertise my wares. And so that's something I do now. So that's another bow in my arrow. There we go.
Yeah. It's interesting because I think a lot of us have got into the healing because of different aspects of childhood and different things. So I can't say I had an unhappy childhood, because that would be a lie. But I know with the, sorry, things are clicking up. I know with the healing, I mean, I was 19. I mean, I started off with, I was about 19 when I was invited along to a kind of spiritualist church to listen to a spiritualist medium. It was a tent where I was working that invited me, and I went along, and it was fascinating. It was really for fortune telling at that time. Mm. But then I pulled a muscle in my back, and I went along, and I was in quite a lot of pain with it. And somebody came up and said, does anybody want healing? I thought, I'll give it a go, And I was quite skeptical about all this stuff, Mm-hmm. And anyway, so I went and I had some healing done and things like that. And then the next thing, I went back to my seat and I didn't feel any different. I thought, oh, well, never mind. Next morning, I could touch my toes. It was kind of, and it was like, okay, this works. Because a lot of times people think the healing's a bit kind of fluffy. Yes. But it's not until you experience it yourself that you realise, yes, it does work. And and from that knowledge, then you can go forward. So yeah, people do. But so I think maybe we've covered a lot of it. But why do you do what you do? What's your prime motivation?
Well, I mean, I was just going to add on to what you just said there, and it's absolutely true. Most healers go into healing because they're trying to heal themselves. And I'm not sure that I was aware of that. I just knew my life was such a disaster and so emotionally awful, and I didn't really want to be here very much. And I was smoking heavily and drinking heavily to just get through the day, and eating, boatloads of chocolate and all the wrong things, and not honouring myself in any way, and not loving myself in any way, and really just desperately unhappy. And so I kind of mentioned, I think I became a little bit addicted to having you or anybody else heal me, i.e. giving my power away enormously. And in the beginning, that's all that I could muster. But through having hundreds of BodyTalk sessions, because that's what we do, we swap, and I've really, really turned my life around. I've got sober, which is a miracle, and I've worked really hard in various therapies to forgive the people that need forgiving, and to just become a whole person, and all of these things. And what it means to me now as a medical intuitive is that I can sit with anybody's pain. It doesn't matter how deep or unknown it is, or how uncomfortable they are with it. I just seem to have this gift of allowing the healing to happen because I know the pain that they're in. Do you see what I mean? So it's just it feels like a really, really strong gift. And I love to watch people. I mean, I just love to watch people come in, crippled with anxiety. I don't love that they've got anxiety, but I love knowing that I can really help. Or extreme chronic pain. Or sometimes people come to me because they just want a better death, So we can just take away some of the stuff that they've built up this lifetime that perhaps they don't want to take with them, and make their passing a little bit more comfortable than perhaps it could have been. So that happens too. But I do it because I just get this deep satisfaction of knowing that one by one, as we get better, the world gets a better place, and as I heal me, the world's getting better. If I were to heal you, then the world will get a little bit better because of the people you impact. And it just gives me such intense pleasure, because I have had some people go from I hate myself, I'd like to kill myself, to like really fulfilling relationships, happy being, a parent, and just getting on with a really meaningful life from, one that was, 2 hairbreadths away from them taking it themselves and things like that. So I'm not a miracle worker. I'm just a very strong believer in, if you're ready and willing, then huge changes can take place. So that's I do BodyTalk because I love the depth of the sessions. I do angel readings because of the love. And as I explained to you before, I didn't have a love that I could, my hole was square, and the love that came my way was triangle. You know what I mean? It just wasn't gonna. They probably did love me in their own sweet way, but it wasn't love that I could identify as such. So just the healing that comes from the angels when people are really lost, or really grieving, or just don't know which way to turn, or can't forgive themselves, or it just is so enjoyable to say, look, you're doing the best that you can, and that's okay, and the angels want you to know that, well done, and stop beating yourself up, because very often it's us humans that cause the problems that we have, and then blame ourselves incessantly. And actually the angels don't judge us like that in any way. And so that's a really wonderful new perspective I get. And also, the angel readings that I do, very often there's a kind of a global message of, we just have to love each other, and we have to bring peace on the earth, one person at a time, if that's how we do it. And I just love them. And, you know, I hated church my entire life. And here I am working with Jesus and Mary and, you know, all these. It's just insane. But I wouldn't change it for the world. I think I had to be that unhappy to know that I can help other people. And I was born to help people. It just seems to run through my veins. You know, sometimes I wish I could just be really selfish and go, no, I'm not going to help. But as soon as somebody asks for help, there I go. I just love it. But like I said, I'm not brilliant at promoting myself. And one of the problems that I have with BodyTalk is people tend to get well. So, you know, I know it's
That's your problem.
highly frustrating. No, I mean, of course, I'm delighted, but it just means I'm always having to look. So that's why I moved online, because, I needed to also generate an income. So I do some of it because it feels like that's my soul's purpose, and some of it because I need to eat and house myself. Do you see what I mean? And there is a bit of a conflict there sometimes, but I always ask the angels, and they always say, look, you know, just do what brings in, you know, you need to bring in money, and you need to help people. So I do beat myself up about that a little bit, I have to be honest. I'd much rather be helping lots of people. But anyway, so what was the question? Why do I do it?
Yeah, but I think you hit on a really important point that, and it's something I believe as well. If people could just clear their own stuff, their own energies, or fight if they can't do it on their own, or they're not aware of what the problem is, kind of go to someone that can help them, whether it be you or some other modality. And if we all looked after our own little area, then the world would be a better place. But because of especially now, you get overwhelmed with news from here, there, and the other, and a lot of people kind of transfer their anxieties onto people who are thousands of miles away, or they worry about what's happening in other countries and stuff like that. And I can understand that, because there's an awful lot of fear, kind of the fear energy kind of going on. But you know, they also, you know, you can empathize if something terrible could have happened, and you put yourself in that position, but you're not actually living that life. And you know, it just brought to mind something that happened when, in my 20s, I was living in a bedsit in Wimbledon, actually, and the person that kind of shared with me, her boyfriend was from Northern Ireland. And at that time there was lots of troubles in Northern Ireland. And he was home with his family for a week. He was in Belfast. And the news kind of came through, the massive troubles in Belfast, and, you know, bombs here and there. And she was absolutely petrified. She couldn't get hold of him. And it was before kind of all the mobile phones and stuff like that. So she couldn't get hold of him. And anyway, he eventually kind of contacted her. She said, "Where have you been with it?" She said, "What? I never heard anything." You know, so she was absolutely thought he was dead in some ditch somewhere, and he'd just been having fun with his family and his friends and stuff, without knowing that all the news that was coming over that had happened. So this is what people do. They put their own stuff into the situation when they're not in that situation. They would feel very different if they were.
Absolutely. And, you know, they say 85% of what you worry about doesn't happen anyway. So why waste your time on that? But my attitude, you know, let's talk about that wonderful new president over there. And everybody's going, "Oh, what do you think? What do you think?" And I'm like, I can do nothing about it. It's nothing to do with me. I mean, yes, is it going to influence my life? Of course it is, you know, because everybody else is worrying about it. But right here, right now, the only thing I can look after is me and my, you know, whatever is in front of me, because that's all going to play out without me. And if you know, I was taught this very early on in recovery, all the world's a stage. And you'll attract to you what you want to play out on that world stage. So if you're frightened of war, you'll just see war all the time. If you're frightened of being single, that's what you'll find. Circumstances which reinforce your being single. And so I just very much, yes, I'm interested because, it's a world event and here we are living here and now. This is, I'm alive now for this, for a purpose. But at the very same time, I cannot influence world politics. I'm therefore not going to spend a lot of time worrying about them because my mission is very much to help people on a ground roots level. I'm not a global player. I'm not, I used to, in my delusion, want to be on, a big stage, and I really don't want that anymore. I do want to help people. And if that means just one person at a time, and it's the pebble effect, isn't it? I'll drop the pebble in and then that'll help their family. Did a session this morning and the lady was saying, it was yesterday, and the lady was saying to me, my mother was crying for the 2 days since we've done the session. I'm like, yeah, well, it's family stuff. Of course it's going to affect her. I'm not happy that she's crying, of course, but she's crying as a symptom of healing. So her mother is healing. So I very much don't watch the news. I don't tend to read news. I used to be an avid reader of all the newspapers in the world. I just haven't read the newspapers for probably 15 years now. I look on the BBC every now and again just so that I've got something to talk about when I see people. But it's not my life, and it's really hard to learn that, especially when you come from, as I do, a really, really intellectual family who, score points on how much they know and how many languages they speak, blah, 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 blah. They don't do that consciously, but that's how it feels to me. And, but I think, one of the things I have learned on this big, long old journey that I've been on is I can't in any way expect anyone to approve of me. I don't want them to approve of me. What I want is to be who I am and be allowed to be that. And if I surround myself with people that are constantly saying, well, that's stupid, don't do that, I'm with the wrong people. We really have to start taking a lot more responsibility for who you surround yourself with and being really in integrity with yourself. And one of the things that I found, which is really interesting to me, I have very dark hair. I've always had very dark hair. But for some reason, about 2.5 years ago, I was just like, I can't dye my hair anymore. It feels like a lie. Now, I'm not judging anybody else. I know lots of people that dye their hair, and that's absolutely fine. But for me, it just didn't feel truthful. So I stopped and found out I had a lot more black than I thought I did, which is fantastic. But, and it's amazing how many people want to get involved in what colour my hair is. And it's nothing to do with anybody else. It doesn't feel right to me, therefore I'm not going to dye my hair. Maybe that'll change next year. Maybe I'll suddenly want to go pink or purple or something silly. But for now I'm taking responsibility for me, and I'm really listening to my intuition and what feels right. And I think so many people give their power away day after day out. They've got a boss that tells them what to do. And I was even reading now they're starting to have these rules where women have to wear heels in work and women have to, blah, blah, blah. It's like, this is why I don't work in corporate anymore, because I'm not one of those people that you can tell what to do, which is a personality trait. I don't think there's much I can do about that, but,
it's interesting. Some years ago, I've been a temp contractor most of my life. I like the variety. I'm running my own business now, so it's a bit different, but I remember working for an agency, and they asked me to actually work within the agency for a few weeks because they're getting permanent staff, and there was a kind of a gap. So I went in and I was doing what I was meant to be doing and stuff. And then one of them is kind of who actually used to place me in bookings said, the main man came in. He said, "Could you wear a suit, please?" I said, "Don't wear suits." "Well, if you could get," I said, "No, I don't wear suits. That's not who I am." I said, "But if it means so much to him, then you better replace me. I don't, get someone who wears a suit." But after that, because I was doing a good job, they dropped it, and because I've never been a suit person. I've got friends that love suits, and that's them. But it's never been me. I've always been much more of a kaftan type person, more kind of hippie thing. But it's interesting, because you're talking about kind of the world news and things. Well, because I run an online business, I'm online a lot, so I can't really avoid seeing the news and things. And I do. But I am in a place of detachment to it. I don't get emotional, but though some things that happen, you think, my God, how can they do that? In this day and age. So I have to admit, I do kind of get a jolt every now and again by the sheer audacity of what's happening. But I look at it and I think, well, I look at all the other stuff that's happening, and there's this unity, there's this people coming together and think, no, and supporting each other and protecting each other, of different religions, it's just incredible. And I think without such a shockwave, that probably wouldn't have happened, because people do get comfortable in their own little cocoons. And I'm not pretending to be any different. I'm a bit the same. But when something hits you, then you have to deal with it. And I think a lot of people having to deal with stuff that they didn't think they'd ever have to deal with, because we're past that. But it seems like it feels like the world they're trying to bring the world back about 100 years. But in the days of the internet, and I'm not just talking about America, I'm talking about, the UK, everywhere. There's this element of control. And with the internet, people are getting much more news. They're getting much more out of control. So obviously the forces that want to control, then they're going to get stronger. They're going to try. It's going to be much more clamping down. And I can understand why there's a lot of people who are very fearful. But, by putting fear into the equation, then you're actually just strengthening the ability of people to control you if you're fearful. It's not an easy thing. And I know sometimes some people must feel I don't care. And it's not that I don't care. It's just that you'll be a basket case if you worried about everything and everybody, and all you can do is send kind of loving energy, and that's the best thing you can do when people are acting from fear, because people, people don't often do bad things or kind of without kind of a fearful element. Or, and some people don't think they're bad. I mean, it's a personal perception a lot of times. But, if you can send love to things, and these global meditations and things, and there's so much more, it does win eventually. Though it tends to get worse. And of course, you've got kind of who's telling the stories and why they're telling the stories and things like that. So it's a kind of worms, really. But if we can just look after what's happening in our daily life, keep ourselves calm and peaceful, and if we can't do it alone, find someone who can help us to do it. I think that's the best thing we can do. I've been, it's just being happy. That's the best thing. That's the best way of dealing with anybody that's got fear, is just find your own personal happiness.
Yeah, I think that's quite a big statement, though. And for someone who didn't know what happiness was, and a lot of people were just be happy, just make yourself happy. And I was like, what does that mean? And the other one that people used to say is just love yourself. And I'm like, that's not a language I understand. So I think, when there's deep trauma or real serious emotional issues, advice like that can be really, it make you worse because you feel. But what I wanted to address was your you know, what you said about the news. And it's been a long-standing belief of mine that there is a certain community on this planet that wants us to be in fear, and the way they do that is by creating events like 9/11 and wars and all these things, which certain families are getting very rich from and everybody else is getting very frightened from. But the brilliant thing that they're doing is, without us noticing, taking away our rights and our freedom of speech and all of the rest of it. So this isn't the platform to discuss this, but if you want to look it up, please do, because I think that people need to wake up, you know, and I think it's starting to happen. There's a lot of stories about paedophile rings which are being broken. Standing Rock was a massive eye-opener for many, many people. I'm thrilled that happened. I hate the way that it is happening, but well done to them for just standing up and saying, look at us, this needs looking at. And there's so many things that are brilliant about this planet at this time. And the wonderful speaker Satish Kumar, you know, I just couldn't like him more, love him more, in fact. He made a comment at the Seed Festival that I was at 2 years ago, I think it is now. And he said, how many people are on the planet? He said, about 7 billion. It's probably gone up since then. And he said, how many people are actively at war? And he said, if you really added up everybody on the planet that was at war, it's about 200,000 people out of 7 billion. So what are the other 7 billion people doing? They're making the tea, they're driving their kids to school, they're doing the washing, you know, they're living peaceably. But because the media is owned by the same companies that want us to be frightened, we get shown horrendous images all the time, most of which are fabricated. I do believe that there are some horrific things going on in the world, but I think the news only goes to look for that because that will keep us scared, and that will justify why we have to go and, you know, bomb a country for its oil and all the rest. It just is so convoluted, and they play smoke and mirrors so that the left and the right, you vote for whichever one you want, doesn't make any difference because their person will still get in. And, you know, I've been reading about this for years and years and years, and it's starting to come out, and I'm thrilled that that's true. And I just really would encourage people to not believe what you see and to go and look at other, you know, go and find. Now, when I started delving down the conspiracy theory route, I have to admit I was highly depressed, and it was just another thing to get addicted to. And I did it so much that in the end I got really bored, and I'm glad I did that because then I could come back and take a step back. So be careful. It is a real rabbit warren, but there's so many amazing things happening on this planet if you just look for them instead of being constantly bombarded with the horror and the deprivation and the stupidity of mankind. Look for all the young people that are doing things to clean up the oceans, or like creating products so that you can grow vegetables vertically, and just some amazing things that I'm very lucky actually. On my timeline I tend to see more of that because I have always kind of veered towards people that are doers. I like people that get up and do things, you know what I mean? And so I'm regularly seeing something on the Facebook feed that's like a massive innovation, and I wholeheartedly support it and, you know, share it as much as I can, because they don't want us to be happy. And they want us to be addicted to the here and now, which is a bigger car, a better house, nicer furniture, better kids, better food for the kids, better clothes for the kids, better, you know, blah, blah, blah. It's endless, and that's what they want, because then we're not looking at what's actually going on, which is the destruction of our planet. Okay, end of lecture.
Yeah, no, it is very true. You know, I said if you listen to the news, you just it is doom and gloom, most of it. I remember in my childhood, my dad was addicted to the news, and there was always a happy story at the end. You don't get that anymore, you know. But I see things, but I get a lot of the really positive stuff. But it wasn't until I started on the Soulfully Connecting journey a few years back, and I was looking for stuff. And there's millions and millions of people out there doing wonderful stuff, but you never hear about them. Unless you look for them, you don't hear about them because they're not mainstream media. It's again, all the inventions and stuff that's going on. And I mean, I saw one the other day with this 3D printers. They'd actually printed a house. It was just incredible stuff.
$110,000, wasn't it? It was really, really cheap. And my favorite one was there's these. I think it was in Detroit, but correct me if I'm wrong. But anyway, it was somewhere like that where there was projects and it was really run down, and all the people were getting convicted of stealing, copper out of the houses, and you could buy a house for $1 because nobody wanted to live there because there were so many, shot marks in the furniture. It was just a horrible place to live. So this guy just started this thing, and I'm going to say guerrilla gardening, but I don't think that's the name of it. Anyway, he started this thing where he just got a piece of wasteland and he started teaching people how to plant vegetables. Yeah. And then all these addicts now go there and get recovery because they're helping people rebuild their house. And of course, then the whole neighborhood's regenerating. And that just makes my heart sing. What a wonderful, wonderful thing. And he's not alone. I just don't think that sort of thing is covered on mainstream media, which is why it's so important to look beyond what you're being told.
But these people they're trying to stop them because they're a group of people, and I can't remember where they are, to be honest, but they have to go out at night and plant flowers and vegetables and things like that because they're stopped. So it's like an SAS kind of operation. They go out and they do their gardening, and then when people come in the morning, there's this kind of new area that's been planted and stuff like that. It's there's incredible stuff going on. Wonderful. But anyway, so we've been nattering away. It's been great. But we're very much like-minded. But the challenges, what are the challenges you find with your particular work?
I think I'm my biggest challenge in that it's taken me the longest time. Like I said, I've been doing BodyTalk for 12 years and I get phenomenal results and great feedback and fantastic testimonials. And it took me the longest time to believe in what I was doing. I believed in what I was getting. I just didn't believe in myself as a BodyTalk practitioner. And that's a lesson I'm learning this lifetime is like, now if you asked me, I'd be like, I do really effective BodyTalk sessions. And now I've been doing it long enough that I really should be able to talk about it. But I still find it really difficult to tell you why you need a BodyTalk session. And I need to get better of that. Interviews like this will obviously help me, but I have had doctors recommending patients to me, so that's always been great. I had a friend in Germany who sent me lots of her clients. That was great. So there's always seems to be people sending me clients, which is fantastic. I don't know why I don't just get over myself. There we go. So that's that. And it's the same with angel readings. I love to do them, and I really find it one of the most wonderful experiences especially when someone's in quite a dark place, you know what I mean? And to bring in all that love and that light and just the joy and be able to say, look, it is going to get better. That sort of thing is just wonderful. Again, not brilliant at advertising my services, but getting better, because with doing the Make Money Online thing, I'm having to overcome things. I'm having to write blogs and do videos and start talking. And I think one will hopefully rub off on the other. I find it a lot easier to talk about making money online because nearly everybody wants to do that. So what I'm hoping to do is, build my teams over there and then say, by the way, I do angel readings about. I think I'm my biggest challenge. And the other thing is, it doesn't matter how good I am or how great my testimonials are. Not everybody's going to want to try it. It's not for everybody. And what I find is some people just aren't ready to let go of the pain. So, maybe they get some benefit from being ill and don't want to give that up. So I have sometimes come across people who refuse to get well, and we do the sessions anyway. And I know that they're getting some healing, but it's very much about wanting to get well. So yeah, if I could get out of my own way, I would probably be really successful.
Yeah. The thing is, with the kind of work that you do, and I'm a reader as well. It's really it's so personal that I think it has to come from recommendation, and that's how I get my clients is through recommendation, because people are distrustful when it can be very personal, and also there's quite a bit of harm that can be done, by people such as ourselves if you aren't on the right path. I lived and worked in Portugal for a few years, and I know there was I was told by one of the people that came to me, there was a lady in another area of Portugal who used to say, well, there's a train, you're going to be in a train crash, but if you pay me so much money, I can stop it happening. That kind of element. And these are the things that people hear about. And so unless you're recommended, people, they understandably, they're cautious. Understandably.
It came across my radar. I mean, clearly, I'm all about integrity and living in truth. Truth is a really big word for me. But I came across someone I know had someone say to her, "If you don't get healing with me, it will kill you." And I immediately said, "No honest to goodness healer would ever threaten you. I mean, it's not." No. It's not right. But, yes, there are some really unscrupulous people. But again, I can't do anything about those. All I can do is be as integral and as honest.
It's being visible, really. And then the people, I did the festivals for about 14 years. And I know people would wander around and then they would be drawn to a reader, And I remember a few times